everybody. Today we have with us Russell Belcher, who is from Melbourne, Australia. Russell is an operations manager for a meat processing company. And Russell and I go way back because we did the secular program together. That's how we met. And so we started almost at the same time. And we both ended up to be working for that company, being client enrollment coaches. And then I was a client training coach as well. But Russell stopped drinking for about a year and then he started again. And he recognized some problems creeping in. So he chose to sign up with our program. So we're going to hear about all that today. Enjoy. Hi, Russell, and welcome. Welcome to
Thanks
the
for
Say Goodbye and Imagine podcast.
mm, Thanks, Roseanne. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm so glad you came on, Russell. Um, I want to just start with having people kind of know a little bit about you and, maybe your drinking journey.
Mm,
Just so people can resonate with your story as it relates to alcohol.
Sure. So I can go right back, maybe right back to the beginning.
Yeah, please do.
Okay. So I'm a father of four. Very hectic lifestyle, obviously. But it's always been hectic even before kids. But I was never a big drinker. I was heavily involved in motor racing, and that took up a lot of my time in my late teens, early 20s, and early 30s. So I never really had time for partying or drinking. Um, but once I did have kids, things started to slow down financially, so I couldn't afford um, that 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 sport anymore. So I sort of stepped away from that, and I guess that's when partying started.
Mm,
It calmed down. So I had to really like the taste of alcohol. There's nothing. I never sort of took to it when I was younger. Um, but I guess I forced myself because I thought it was a release from stress. I guess and socially it was accepted. Um, Although I've never felt peer pressure um, to drink or anything like that. I just felt probably more accepted if I had a drink in my hand. Um, so I guess me searching for, a feeling or, to avoid feeling of stress, whether it be through work or relationship. I started drinking, I guess, more and more. Uh, when I say more and more, it you don't really see the increase, because I guess as your body and as time goes on, your body accepts it more and kind of need more and more to get that buzz. Um, Fast forward, 10 or 15 years and, my career has progressed, um, got more and more responsibility, um, gone through a divorce. Um, and that's when things ramped up, in terms of the drinking. So I went from someone who wouldn't drink through the week to, some drinking on the weekends, some hangovers on the weekends. But the the search for something to take away the pain was definitely what I searched for and looked for, and I found it in alcohol. You know,
yeah, it's a common theme. That's sure.
I
Yeah.
found it because I'd never done hard drugs, if you like. That sort of stuff scared me. Alcohol was accessible. I didn't look at it as a drug. Uh, I looked at it as fun. You
No,
know,
a lot of us do, right? That's how the advertisements go. I've never been to Australia, but my understanding is drinking is even more prevalent there than it might be here in the US, which is pretty surprising because it's pretty prevalent here. Is that how you feel about Australia in
Yeah, I guess
general?
it is. There's more and more what we call bottle shops opening up. There's lots a variety of different bottle shops, and it's everywhere. It's so accessible, and going out somewhere, so accessible.
Yeah. It sounds the same as here. Some
Yeah,
people tell me it's a bigger problem there, but I don't know why. It seems to be the same thing. But
yeah.
so,
I guess for me, if we go back to my story, in a high pace work environment, and having some relationship issues post divorce, and then meeting someone new, the pressures of that, kind of lost everything through my divorce and had to start again at the age of 40. Um, so, and I'm still rebuilding to this day. So things ramped up with the drinking and really heavily, uh, until a couple of years ago. I met James Swanick, and that's actually where I met you, Roseanne. And I went through his program, which really helped me, and I was successful in stopping drinking for over 12 months.
right. It was over a year, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Which I look back on, and I'm really proud of that. And not only proud of that time, but I also ended up doing some recruitment work for James. And so,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we both worked as enrollment coaches together.
yeah,
It was a
yeah,
great time.
which I really enjoyed. Um,
We were darn good at it too.
but yeah, yeah.
Little competitions between us.
Yeah, well, it was kind of good timing because I took a break from my career,
Mm-hmm.
and so there was 12 months there where I wasn't in that high pace environment, and I was sort of working for myself, if you like, or working for James, sort of contract,
Mm-hmm.
like. So it was a good time. It was a good time to really sit back and take stock of my life, what was important. But, I'm still, as I said, in the rebuilding phase of my life, recovering from 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 a nasty divorce. Um, so post working with James and working with yourself, I continued to be alcohol free. However, as it always does, it comes back into your life, and if you're not prepared for it, or you don't have the systems in place, it can quite easily take over again, which is what it did for me. So it snuck back in. It was like,
Yeah, can you just tell me about that? Like, do you remember that first time that you just said, "Yeah, okay." I mean, do you think it's about the confidence that
yeah,
you gain? You're
yeah,
like, "Yeah, I'm good."
yeah, and that is definitely where it's at. You get so much time under your belt that you think that you're different to everyone else, and because I'd heard so many times on panels or on meetings that we have that, you know, people that gone through the same thing and they started drinking again. And I was like, how the hell can you do that? Why would you why would you even consider that? And I could never understand it, until I was in that situation. And
Mhm.
and then so for me, yes, it was definitely overconfident, and thinking that I was different to everyone else. Not realizing, not
It's just
realizing that,
amazing. We all think that. Like,
yeah, you
we're all
know,
susceptible to that because we feel so good. We think we can handle it.
yep. And for me, everyone is different in the sense that of their habit or whatever they do. For me, I'm not that, let's go and get one or two drinks. And I forgot about that, So when I was in the height of my drinking, I was not a 1-2 type of guy. Like I'm all in. I'm either all in or I'm all out. Can't be halfway. So it would be a bottle, or it would be 8 or 9, cans. So and I forgot about that. I forgot I'm not that guy that can have 1 or 2. But my the the extended time I had without alcohol really gave me that confidence to think that I could just have 1 or 2. So I
But
did that.
it was okay at first too, because I remember talking to you when you chose
Yeah.
it, and
Mm.
you're like, it's okay. I can
Yeah.
leave it or take it.
Yeah. 100%. And I guess initially when I reflect back on it, I was okay.
Hmm.
But as time went on, and this sort of goes back to when you first start drinking, it just starts creeping back more and more. And as stresses and as things are introduced into your life, you slip back, into that habit. So, what I found myself, and I've spoken about this, but what I found myself doing was, you know, I set some limits for myself in terms of when I would drink, because we have this perception that we can't drink during the weeks where we're alcoholics. We can only do it on weekends. So I set those limits. But I found myself over time, over, the course of 6 months or longer, starting to think about it more and more. Things would pop up on a Wednesday, or things would pop up on during the week, and you know, I started thinking about it. I'd start thinking about drinking again. Whereas that would never come when I wasn't drinking. You um, and I'd be looking forward to the weekend because of drinking, not because of I want to spend time with my family, or I've got this to do or that to do. I need to get to the gym. So those
Yeah,
thoughts started.
that's a big awareness trip, right?
Yeah,
Realizing how your priorities just switched to
yeah.
the bottle or the can or whatever you're.
So that was the first red flag for me, really thinking, okay, why am I thinking about this again? Even on a Monday or Tuesday. I've got to wait till the weekend till I have a drink. I don't really have to, right? But they're the parameters that I set for myself. So that was the first red flag. And then we reconnected. I guess we've always been connected, but you were starting a new program, or
Mhm.
you were almost finished your book, and you encouraged me to take a look at the program. And at that time, I was on the fence, and I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about why that is, but
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. I think it's great to talk about that because, I think it's the case for a lot of the people that come in to this particular program. And yeah, I was going to go back 1 second before we talk about your choice to come in and explain, like, the coolest thing that I heard about why this slowly comes back is because you taught yourself new habits, right? And you kind of incorporated them for over a year in your life.
mhm,
And so your brain said, yeah, this is the thing I need to pay attention to.
yeah,
And then when you bring drinking back in, your your mind goes, well, wait a minute, that new habit isn't as important. And so what happens is your brain just kind of remembers what used to be important, and you're not paying attention to the new habit that was important. So they just start, you know, one gets less important, one gets more important, and it comes back. And that's why it can slowly come back. For some people, it's fast, but for a lot of people, I do hear exactly what you said. It's no big deal. It's no big deal. And it isn't, because your new habit is still fully ingrained, but now you're bringing in alcohol and it doesn't know which habit to pay attention to. So it digs deep into the one it knows and it starts bringing that back. Like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. So that sounds pretty much like it happened, right?
absolutely. I think that is more common than not. People people will never stand around at a party and say, I'm drinking too much. They'll always say, I've got this, it's nothing. But underlying, they I would challenge most people. There would be a percentage of people that can just have a glass of wine or, every now and again, But I think more often than not, people are drinking more than what they say they are. You
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
well,
just yeah,
you and I know we did enrollment calls, right? So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Um, and we do lie to ourselves a lot, or at least be untruthful to others about where we stand, whether it's our doctor or spouse or,
yes,
it just creates this sense, I don't know, it just brings about something in us that we're not, I mean, by nature, I know you're not a liar. I'm not a liar. And yet we find ourselves deceiving, and that plays hard on our mental health, right?
Well,
Mental wellness.
it's the number one because for me, that was the number one. I was not in integrity with myself, and and, you know, through the height of my drinking, I was lying to myself because I'd keep making promises to myself that I would stop and I kept breaking it. So my confidence was lost
Yeah.
and this thing slowly took over and power, and, that's really the number one is that I couldn't keep a promise to myself. So I couldn't
Yeah.
trust myself.
Yeah. And I know you're a really high performing executive. And I think for a lot of people, they can be they're high performing. They know they have more in them. They're used to getting stuff done many times. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait, why can't I get this done? Why can't I
Yes.
just tell, anything
Yes.
else? If I say I'm going to do it, I just do it. But
Yeah.
this, it just takes you by surprise.
That's mhm.
So before you talk about what your reticence was and coming back to the program, how did you know that it was probably time to do something different?
Yeah. I guess because I felt it was creeping in, it was creeping back. I identified it a lot earlier than what I did the first time meeting before I met James. Um, so those examples I gave of thinking about it during the week and waiting until the weekend, abstaining. Um, those feelings were getting stronger and stronger during the week to drink, having to wait until the weekend felt terrible. So I knew then that that's something wrong. You know,
What did you
started.
think you were going to do? I mean, I know you weren't sure about, but my program may not have even existed. Did you kind of start with
Um,
like, oh my gosh, how am I going to deal with this? Or did you try and deal with it on your own? Yeah. Like, did you try and quit
yeah,
on your
yeah, but I guess because I'd had a long period of alcohol freedom in the past, that gave me a bit of confidence, maybe false confidence, so I can do it again by myself. But what 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 you don't realize at that time is that you don't have the team, the accountability, those systems and those programs to assist. You're on your own, and
Yeah, and it's too easy to lie to yourself.
correct. Yeah, exactly. Mm, uh,
Yeah, I call it mental gymnastics. It's not fun.
yeah, well, it was kind of good timing, that we started talking and, we talked for, a couple of months
Mhm.
where, you were sort of, you know, I guess not pushing, but, just, hey, Russell, I'm still here. What are you doing?
Yeah, encouraging. I call it encouraging.
Yeah. Uh, so that was good, because it
Well, and
kept that.
as a matter of fact, Russell, I remember I was starting the program and you weren't part of it. And then, like, maybe the weekend before it started, you like, I'm
Mm,
in. So now feel free to talk about what your reticence was about coming in. Like, yeah.
Yeah, October 4 is when we kicked off. So, 2022. So I guess for me, it was the, um, the religion. Yeah, I wasn't sure about, yeah, the plans he has for me. Um, when you spoke to me about it, I wasn't sure if I'd fit in
Hmm.
to that because there was there was the religion sort of based theme, if you like, and I wasn't sure if that was for me, you know. So I
Where
thought
were
about
you? Where were you spiritually before that?
nowhere, you know.
Nowhere.
You know, I'd never been a religious person. You know, I think I guess I guess I would call myself spiritual, but not sort of following any specific religion, you know, believing that there's something there, but not really knowing what it is, not
Hmm.
really practicing any type of religion. But at the same time, being respectful of others and being respectful that others do believe in that, you know. So I didn't really have an opinion. I was just worried that perhaps, A, I wouldn't fit into the group, and B, maybe it wouldn't work for me because I didn't have an interest in any religious or religion.
Right. And
So,
so, but you did, you chose to give it a
well, yeah,
shot and tell us about that. Just
well, I
giving it a
guess,
shot and like
yeah,
how that felt and where you went with it.
yeah. So I guess the point I got to was that, why, why, why can't you just try it? What are you, what are you going to lose? Kick off on October 4th, and what's the worst that can happen? So I approached it with an open mind, an open heart, and I decided to start with the group on October 4th. Um, I purchased the book and started reading. Uh, and look, it's a little bit, it was a little bit different for me starting out.
Hmm. I'm sure it
But
was. If you didn't
yeah,
have any of that background, you're like, "What's this? This isn't in the Bible?"
mm,
I mean,
so,
all
yeah,
of it was, right? You've never read the Bible, have you?
no, no.
No.
But I just followed the process, and as I said, with an open mind, I just followed day by day, week by week. I just kept following, and and I would there's sort of a daily. I would read that daily, and I'd read it twice a day. So in the morning and at night, Um, and for those that haven't gone through the program, I won't expand on it. I don't want to spoil it, but
Like,
um,
you
for
can't
anyone,
go through all 84 days in minutes, so you're fine saying whatever you want about it.
yeah.
Yeah, no, don't you?
But no, I enjoyed just following the process, and following the way that it was structured. And so that was one important aspect. I think to back that up, um, I attended, some Zoom meetings once a week, actually twice a week, the majority of my first 90 days it was. So, um, yeah, I guess that that group again, combined with the daily reading, daily devotional, I guess that really solidified things for me, and made it a lot easier. So during those meetings, we could talk about what we were experiencing, whether it be in the day to day and how that was affecting us throughout our journey, because everyone was sort of on a different time sort of structure, when they'd started and when they hadn't, or when they
Right.
come into the program. So yes, I think that combined with the meetings is very effective for me. So much so that, after the 90 days, or 84 days, I decided to start again and read them again. as we do with all books, we think, well, movies, I gotta watch that again.
Well,
That's
those concepts are pretty important. I don't know if you found this, but they're pretty important to all kind of areas of our life as far as I'm concerned. I mean, very, very specifically drilled down to drinking, but don't you find a lot of the concepts transferable to a lot of areas of your life?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. So, I guess in the second quarter, if you like, so post the first 84 days, I decided to go a little bit more serious and really set some goals. So the first block, if you like, or the first 84 days, I got through and then didn't drink. You know, uh, but then I thought, okay, now it's time to ramp it up and see what I can really do in terms of other aspects of my life. So I really set some hardline goals, which I shared with the team during some calls, in that second quarter, which was um, financial goals, work goals. Um, so I'm happy to say that in that second quarter, I purchased a property, which I shared with the group.
Congratulations.
Um, I secured a second revenue stream to supplement income.
Nice.
I also lost about 15 kilos uh, through fitness and
That a
boxing.
kilo is more than a pound, right? So you're about 20 pounds.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, yeah,
Congratulations. I know it's fun to watch people in the I saw your face go down. Yeah.
yeah. You do. Yes, yeah. Probably lost
Yeah.
too. That time I was going too hard. But I really, like I said, it was time to put in the second gear, and really try and ramp it up.
But don't you find this is what I found that once you can tackle like the alcohol, it gives you this juice like to go like, okay, I did that, I can do this, right? You just keep pressing in and developing more and more confidence. Is that how you feel?
Confidence is really big. I don't feel insecure. And when you talk about confidence, like I feel, uh, you feel so good having that confidence to walk into an event or a party,
Right.
but and know that you're not going to drink, and it doesn't worry you.
Hmm.
It's not easy the first few times or the first few months, whatever that may look like, but it does get easier, as time goes on because you keep layering up, keep building on that confidence.
And that's why the community is important because, you're not the only one walking into parties yourself choosing, soda water and lime or whatever you're choosing.
Yeah,
It's not a lonely place
correct.
to be doing that. And I think that's the wonderful thing about the group dynamic.
Yeah.
So then what did happen with your faith through reading that, if you don't mind
Well,
sharing?
yeah, I'm not sure how to put that into words, but it definitely opened my eyes to, um, like I still don't really feel the urge to be a weekly churchgoer at all.
Hmm.
But I do really it has really opened my eyes to the possibility of learning more about religion, God, um, because I really feel like in some cases there was someone looking out for me throughout my time there, and
You did tell me something feels different.
mm,
I like that. Something's different this time. And I
things,
love that.
yeah, sorry, things were
No,
still, things were still stressful and things were still challenging. I think that's the important thing to remember that none of that goes away, but we get better at at dealing with those things alcohol free, you know.
yeah, life doesn't stop happening. The world doesn't stop throwing things at you, but boy, can you handle them a lot better. And
Yeah, you can because you sort of stockpiled some tools in your chest. You can deal with things. It's not easy at the start, but anyway, it's really not. You've got to compound that confidence and keep building it. It takes time, and it takes. You can't do it by yourself. Very few people are there.
yeah, I don't want to say you can't because I've known people who can, but I'm
Mm,
certainly not one of them.
I'm not one of those guys. I mean,
I
yeah,
think we're in the majority, Russell. I think we're in the majority. Like,
I perform better in a group environment. I'm very competitive. Doesn't matter what I do, whether it's fitness, and I enjoy being that guy that shows up every time. And someone hasn't showed up, that's it. You know, I'm the guy that does. Same with work, same with everything. So I thrive in a group environment. That's why this program, I guess, helped me a lot. Because and I'm still friends with quite a few people in that program. And so it definitely works, the group environment, not only for accountability, but, you know, just sharing feelings. You're on the opposite side of the world to me, and many of your clients are. However, we all share the same thing and the same feelings. It's really
uh,
amazing, that we just share exactly the same feelings and go through exactly the same emotions.
that's yeah, Russell. Well, we're both enrollment coaches, but that's what I just want to scream. Like, you don't understand everything going in your inside your head right now. Like, it's going inside of all of our heads, right? It's all the same conversation. And it's so relieving, especially after beating ourselves up so much. It's so relieving to know that this is normal. This is normal when we get caught in this habit,
Yeah.
and this is what it takes to get out of it, and
Yeah.
to me, the same as weight loss. Unless I'm making a bet with somebody or showing up to Weight Watchers or whatever weight program, and somebody's weighing me on the scale, it's not, I'm the same way. Well, I think we're very much alike. Pedal to the metal is what I like to say. I don't do anything halfway. I just like go all the way. That's why one drink was not enough, and when I really talk about inside the coaching is the romanticizing, right? You can be at a dinner and somebody's having that glass of wine, but they're sipping on it. I think could care less. And that's what I think. I romanticize it, but then I think, well, wait, what would I do with that glass of wine? I'd drink it fast, I'd want another, and then I'd be worried about who was noticing how many others I was having. Like, that was definitely, you know, a
Right.
false thought, a false romantic thought. Yeah.
But, it's also normal to feel crappy, sometimes. It's also normal through this process to feel like that. It's normal to feel insecure, and it's normal to feel um, just terrible sometimes, for whatever reason. But
Oh, you're just talking about normal life, is what you're saying. It's
yeah,
not.
but
Yeah.
that happens,
Hmm.
but it's
So
gonna feel
talk about, I mean,
gonna
it's
feel a whole lot worse by, relieving that pain. That's what I've learned, by relieving that pain with alcohol. It's gonna feel 10 times worse
yeah, it's
tomorrow.
like putting a band-aid on. I don't know. I gotta think of an analogy, but you might drown it up by blotting yourself out for a few hours, but when you wake up, all the same problems exist, only you haven't started solving any of them. you know,
Yeah, the best.
and you
I
may
don't
have
know.
created a few new ones. Right?
Yeah. I don't know who said somebody said it, and they said that, drinking, you're borrowing tomorrow's happiness today.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
And it's really true, So
Yeah. So this is the Say Goodbye and Imagine podcast. So when you said goodbye to alcohol, I mean, you've done it before too. So can you share what you're kind of sharing it now, but I couldn't have imagined that life would, for me, I couldn't have imagined that I would have written a book. I couldn't have imagined, I would have self-confidence again. Couldn't have imagined I would have self-worth. Is there a kind of fill in the blank that that you could share?
Uh, um, and regarding a specific,
Just couldn't imagine the benefits that you're getting. Like when you were in the drinking thing and now you're out, like you couldn't have imagined that life would have that much more clarity. You couldn't have imagined you would have gotten back on track. And you can go back to the first time you quit. That's fine. You don't have to do this time, because I know you were in a different headspace as was I when we first went through. But back then, when you were feeling bad and you quit drinking, you couldn't have imagined what today that you're doing today.
well, as I said in the second quarter, I really kicked some goals, but I I made them very, very specific. But I was very, very aware that I wanted to actually something tangible out of this,
Yeah,
this,
you bought a property.
yeah.
Wow.
Well, something tangible because, I could go 3 years alcohol free or whatever it is, but I need to give myself something to say, look, this is what is, you know, if you really focus and you really, yeah, give this a good crack. So that second quarter is when I really wanted to ramp that up. So now it's about trying to build on that again, you know, and and see where it goes, But I know I'm not going to go backwards,
Right.
because I want to
Well,
maintain and I want to build on the success I've already had.
and that's what it's really about, Russell, is that's what I try and make sure that is exists in this program, that you are focused on enough of documenting benefits to not want to give up those benefits for a drink before, because it's a choice. You can choose, but the neural pathway will most likely come back. And it's like, wait a minute, now you're like, wait, I've gained this financial success, I've gained my self confidence, I've released myself from the psychological slavery of it. We haven't even talked about the connection with, I know you're working remotely with your family right now, but I know you have experienced a lot in terms of your children and your connection. Do you want to share that as well?
Yeah, yeah. I guess they probably they I guess they didn't realize it or acknowledge it as much as I would have liked because I
Well,
know
they're
how much.
young, right?
Well, yeah, I guess I'm talking about my wife.
Oh, okay.
Really, so look, I haven't drank for 3 months. I haven't drank for 6 months. It's like, oh yeah, great, all right, and then it's forgotten about. You're like, no, I
And do
come on,
you do want to be congratulated?
pat on the back. Weird, but yeah. Anyway, but more so for myself, when I look back, on a Saturday night, I'm sitting there like a fat slob drinking, uh, not really, not really in the moment, It's not so much at that point, it's the next day when you feel really, really seedy, you know, um, and you don't feel as engaged, and everybody's talking too loud or, um, it's those moments that I don't miss out.
Yeah. And how about just being an example for your kids? I mean,
Yeah,
knowing what alcohol does
well,
to us and the trap.
they're quite aware of it now. It's surprising, In fact, a couple of months ago, one of my oldest, who sorry, my 9-year-old, who's not my oldest is 21, my 9-year-old said that we have some neighbors and that have friends, and said that their mum or dad drink way too much. So they're aware
Mm,
of it, which if, I'd never want my kids to go over there and say the same thing. It's so embarrassing.
kids are so aware. They just see everything as truth. And we want to, you know, kind of get mad at them when they call us
Mm.
out.
Yeah.
They're kind of
Yeah.
right on, aren't they, when they see
Yeah.
things in
There's no
us?
filter. There's no filter with that. It's
Yeah,
great.
and it is great. Russell, is there anything as we kind of close this out, is there anything you'd like to share with others that, you think is important or you haven't shared, about this
Mm.
journey?
Yeah. Not really. I guess for me, you may come across a lot of, I would say, candidates, people who are interested in removing alcohol from their life, and they may have the same apprehension around religion as I did, but uh, I would just ask them to keep an open mind like I did, and open up your heart to the possibility of, you know, whatever you call religion or whatever you call God, embrace it for what it is and make it your own thing. Uh, and yeah, that's the advice I give to others, encourage
Yeah.
them to take on board.
Well, of course, my view, Russell. I'd love for you to keep reading the devotional and consider church and fellowship
Yeah.
because it really gives me a lot of joy. And I do think, yeah, it's a journey, and I'm just glad you
Well,
started on this with us, and I'm happy it made an impact for you, and I know it made a difference, and I know you look at things differently,
Roseanne, I don't want to keep reading the same book all the time, okay? So I'm gonna need you to stop writing another one, okay?
Well, you can always read the Bible. I'm like 30 years into that one, so you never get sick of that.
Mm.
That's the real deal. So, Russell, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your story and for inspiring others. I really appreciate having you on the show.
I hope it does, Roseanne, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Keep
Okay.
keep working with you.
Okay. Thanks, Russell.